Welcome in, come close. This is where the next move starts. I made this room for the builders, the ones with plans and real world scars. Leaning in, making space for every seat that's led by heart. If you're growing fast and wearing too many hats, you're in the right place. Yeah, this is built for that. The Fractional Executive Network. Come on in, come on in. The Fractional Executive Network, where the best ideas begin. Podcast, and this is your sign. The Fractional Executive Network. Let's get to work this time.
Today we're diving into one of the most common and most expensive challenges inside any growing organization: the alignment between sales and marketing. This isn't theory, this is reality. When it comes to leaders who have sat in the seats, carried the numbers, and learned how to make it work real time, those who do it correctly do it successfully. I'm happy to say that today we have two experienced executive leaders who are going to talk to us about the challenges and the opportunity to overcome those challenges within sales and marketing. I'd like to start though by introducing myself. My name is Michael Grudecki and I'm the president and co-founder of the Fractional Executive Network. With me today, I have Corey Smith, one of our chief revenue officers at the Fractional Executive Network. Corey, I'm pleased to have you join us today. Maybe you could tell our viewers a little bit about yourself.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you for inviting me to the conversation today. I'm Corey Smith, Chief Revenue Officer with the Fractional Executive Network. I've spent the last 18 years leading revenue growth across food service distribution and multi-unit retail operations. I've experienced attracting talent, building high-performing sales organizations, turning around underperforming teams, and driving profitable growth. My role as Chief Revenue Officer at the Fractional Executive Network is to help companies align sales, marketing, and operations.
Corey, we're so happy to have you join us today, and we look forward to all you have to share with our viewers. Next joining us is our Chief Marketing Officer, Tracy Nunziata. Tracy, thank you so much for joining us today. Maybe you could tell our viewers a little bit about yourself.
Sure, thanks for having me. I'm Tracy Nunziata. I'm a fractional chief marketing officer, which means I work with companies who need experienced marketing leadership. My background, over 20 years in B2B and B2C environments. I've led everything from marketing strategy to brand, demand generation, customer experience across a whole range of industries. What I love about the fractional model is that I get to come in across so many different types of companies, get oriented fast, and help those organizations build the marketing engine that they need to grow. And I do that in close partnership with sales side of the house. That partnership or lack of is really what we're here to talk about today.
You know, Tracy, thank you. Partnership is something very important. And I think right out of the gate, when everything is working and we look at those partnerships because it's working, what does success look like from your seat and what are you most proud of? Corey, would you mind jumping in first?
Sure. Success to me looks like when the teams are operating with the same understanding of what our customer avatar looks like. We have common goals and we are driving towards the same result. How do we drive revenue for the company? What excites me is building the clarity and accountability that makes growth repeatable, not dependent on individual effort, but driven by a team.
Thank you, Corey. Tracy, from the marketing seat, same picture, different picture, what are your thoughts?
Well, I'd say it's the same destination, but I think I'm probably watching a little different dashboard to know we're there. Success for me starts with a very measured alignment. Both teams starting in the same place, ending in the same place. Who owns what? Who owns communication? Who owns that customer? And I think when you have that clarity, you really stop stepping on one another. And honestly, I think what I'm most proud of is when the customer doesn't feel the seams. When they're getting one cohesive message, one consistent experience, that's when you know sales and marketing are truly working together as one team. I think it makes things better for the customer and, quite honestly, much better for the business.
So it almost sounds like what you're describing is that North Star, revenue and customer experience, the two sides really on the same side of the same coin.
Yes.
So with that being said, things don't always go as planned. What typically breaks alignment between sales and marketing? And when did you first feel that tension? Tracy, would you mind going first?
Yeah, sure. I've seen it play out in many organizations, and I think it comes back to one thing. Who owns that P&L? When the accountability isn't clear, or when the head of sales and marketing are not aligned at the top, everything, I would say, below them starts to fracture. Teams can really sense that misalignment immediately. What I've seen fail most often is when alignment exists on paper. The performance metrics aren't being driven down consistently. You can have a great strategy meeting in January and you're all aligned, but if those KPIs are not reinforced at every level, I would say by February or March, you have people going in many different directions, and I think that's just such a recipe for failure.
Definitely is. Corey, from the sales side, do you see things similar, a little bit different? What do you have to share with the audience?
So I've seen some of the same patterns, and I'd frame it this way. Alignment breaks down when sales and marketing are operating against different definitions of what success looks like. Marketing is measured on their lead volume. Sales, they're measured on the revenue that they generate. And it creates an immediate tension. I saw it clearly early in my career where both teams were performing against their own goals, but the team wasn't growing. Communication broke down and they lost trust. Each team was just operating for themselves. That's when it became clear to me, it isn't a people issue. This is about having a system issue. And if leadership doesn't align on the metrics and the incentives, the teams are naturally going to drift apart.
So when teams drift apart, that definitely will break down communication. Do you have maybe an example, a story you can share where you've experienced this?
Sure. We introduced a new CRM at one point in time in my career, and sales looked at it as Big Brother, was more oversight. And on the marketing side, they were saying, hey, we're providing the right leads for you to go and drive the business. And I can tell you, we weren't growing the way that we should have been because we were not aligned on who our customer avatar was. Once we gained that alignment, things started to flow a little bit differently. And I can tell you, without that, teams will never be able to drive the right revenue because marketing and sales just weren't aligned.
So that brings us right to where friction lives in our day-to-day lives. Where do CROs and CMOs and their teams most often struggle to work together, and why does it persist, Corey?
So the teams struggle when there's poor communication from leadership, and there's a lack of alignment in how success is defined. What often gets labeled as communication issues, again, they're really systems issues. The organization hasn't set sales and marketing up to win together. If marketing is driving activity and sales is chasing revenue, but there's no shared definition of what success looks like, that friction will continue to exist. Until leadership aligns on who you're targeting and what qualifies as a real opportunity and how success is measured, the tension just doesn't go away.
You know, Tracy, I'm sure you've been in the middle of exactly that. Give us a picture of what it looks like on the ground from a marketing perspective.
I'll give you a perfect example of what structural friction really looks like in practice. I was brought in to build a lead generation model from the ground up. Website, MarTech, capability building, the whole thing. And from the start, it was positioned, even before I arrived, as a marketing initiative. My boss's direction was clear. Don't pull sales in. They're busy. They have to keep selling. They have enough to do. I will say that decision cost us. The moment the campaigns went live, sales was furious. We were reaching out to their customers, people they had relationships with, and they hadn't been consulted on the messaging, the timing, or what we were promoting. And it didn't stop there. Sales then didn't trust the leads, as you were saying, that were coming in. They called them junk, they were unqualified, and they didn't believe in that digital model, that lead generation model at all. Many of them had been selling the same way for years. They had zero interest in building those new skills. Even as our competition, they were running laps around us, quite honestly, in digital and the campaign execution. My team, I ran more of the marketing operations team, we sat in the middle, literally grabbing both sides and bringing them to the table, and making sales sign off on those target audiences and the campaign messaging. And even then, sometimes marketing would override those decisions or claim alignment that just didn't exist. There was no trust, no shared goal, and what happened was no one was approaching the customer with one voice. Here's what made it even more frustrating. We had someone who was head of both groups, and that one person had authority over both functions. I really feel like they had the opportunity to really kind of help get everyone aligned and fix this, but it honestly never happened.
So it sounds like we've clearly named the problem. I think we'll all agree to that. So let's talk a little bit about what it actually takes to fix it. So Tracy, what had to change in structure, mindset, process to start moving in the same direction?
Yeah, it starts at the top. As a leader, whether you're heading marketing or sales or the whole company, you have to make sure the fundamentals are in place. Your teams can honestly sense when leadership isn't aligned. They will find the weakest link and work around it. So the first thing to change is you must have leadership cohesion. You don't have to agree on everything, but you do have to hold the line on the things that matter. And from there, it's about building the right cadences, the shared dashboards, that shared accountability, and a culture where it's okay to say that you've missed on the marketing side or we missed on the sales side without it becoming a blame session. Flexibility, joint problem solving, that's what makes the difference.
And I'm pretty sure in your tenure, you've got stories to share.
Do I have stories?
How about, let's share a story, Tracy.
Sure. One of the things that genuinely changed the dynamic for me was when we overhauled how we approach the annual operating plan. In the past, driven by the corporate structure, sales plan separately, marketing plan separately, and then everyone just kind of showed up at that final meeting and hoped numbers matched and we rolled up together and it was all good. That rarely ever happened. So I went to the sales VP and I said, look, we keep doing the same thing. We're not getting any place. Why don't we do this differently? If we can each still do our planning, that part made sense. But then we'd come together in joint sessions to actually work through it together. So we'd bring our forecasts, our assumptions, lay them on the table, align on the goal together. Not hand it down, not negotiate, but actually align. We also use these sessions to get into go-to-market planning for, say, new product launches. Sales would tell us, they're in front of the customers, exactly what they need to be able to sell in successfully. And then marketing would come in and say, okay, here's the tools we have to make that successful. Again, not easy, but both sides, went in agreeing to listen, joint problem solve, and no defending that turf. I will tell you the result was the tightest plan I've ever built with the sales team. When we take it even one step further, we built out a list of gap closing initiatives. So we could be tracking behind mid-year, and we already had a menu of ideas. We'd agreed on upfront what we'd move up, what we'd start to invest in. So together we weren't scrambling and we weren't finger pointing. We already aligned on that contingency plan. And that whole experience showed me that alignment isn't something that you talk about in January and revisit in December at the end of the year. It's way too late. But you're really kind of building that into the process itself.
Thank you, Tracy. And Corey, I saw you smile and nod as Tracy was describing the planning and the fixing of that process. What does it look like when you rebuild the operating model itself?
The planning process that Tracy described, it's the foundation. Underneath that, you need the operating structure to sustain it. What had to change was structure, metrics, and operating cadence. First, we shared on the shared metrics, the pipeline creation, the conversion, revenue. So both sales and marketing were accountable to the same outcomes. Second, we got clear on what the definitions were, what our ideal customer is, who is our customer avatar, what qualifies as a real opportunity. That removes the ambiguity and creates the friction.
So when we talk about that friction being created, maybe you can go a little bit more into what exactly happens there.
So I've seen it happen where these two divisions drift into silos. Teams were working hard, but not together. They had become every group for themselves type environments. And despite the effort, it was clear we were not going to hit the revenue targets. And I was in a organization that had successfully hit and exceeded AOP every year. And for the first time in almost 10 years, we were looking at not hitting our AOP. So sales and marketing leadership, we came together. We had to sit down and talk about what was standing in the way of us hitting those targets. And we put a plan together, talked to the sales force and the marketing teams as one common voice. We were clear on who our customer was and what we needed to do. And sales had to own that they were not owning up their end of the bargain, and marketing had done a lot of work in the background to make us successful. Once we got clear on what direction we needed to go, we were able to reset our expectations, and we were committed to operating as one team to deliver the results that the business was capable of.
And at the end of the day, I think both sales and marketing are held to a higher standard because of results. And really what I'm finding just in the time we've spoken is we're rowing towards a goal, and through that communication, we're actually making sure that not only are we going towards the same goal, but we have that same roadmap. So now that we have the systems in place, what does it actually look like to keep this humming? What does real partnership between a CRO and a CMO actually look like at a higher level? Corey, what are your thoughts?
At a high level, it looks like shared ownership of the revenue generation. They aligned on who they're targeting, how the demand is created, and then how the pipeline converts to revenue. The CRO isn't questioning the lead quality. Sales is behind it. The CMO isn't questioning the follow-up because both are accountable for the same outcomes. And just as important, the partnership is collaborative and not sequential. Marketing is shaping the demand in the pipeline, which sales is feeding real-time market insights back into the strategy. And when it's working, you can't tell where marketing ends and sales begins. You just see the revenue engine flowing.
So have you seen this play out anywhere, Corey?
Yes, I saw it play out when my marketing counterpart brought forward a gap we couldn't ignore. My team had requested a lot of new products. Marketing did their part to bring it in, but sales wasn't moving the product at the pace we committed to. I led sales, I had to own that. The issue wasn't marketing, they had done their job. It was the execution on the sales side. And from there, the CMO and I aligned quickly. In our weekly cadence, we reviewed the CRM the demand signals and the gaps between what we were expected to sell and what was actually moving. We worked together and found out what was the true financial impact of that and how it was going to negatively impact our team and get in the way of us making bonus. Sales had to own it. We had to step up our game, and we had to deliver on our commitments. So the experience reinforced something I strongly believe in, which is the real partnership isn't about the alignment when things are going well. It's what happens when the accountability was missing. People have to step up and own their decisions.
You know, Corey, I really like the way you described that operational picture. Tracy, based on the way Corey just did, what does partnership feel like from the inside?
Real partnership, I think, I would say looks like immense transparency.
Okay.
It is harder than it sounds. It means the CMO and the CRO, we are talking every week, not even every, maybe even every day. It's just not in the big planning meetings. Marketing knows what's in the sales pipeline. Sales knows what's in the marketing calendar. There's no surprises. It also means that we celebrate together, and it means that we troubleshoot together. When a campaign doesn't convert, you don't have marketing defending their MQLs and sales defending their close rates. You both sit down and ask, where did that handoff break down? And the big question is, what are we going to do together to fix it? The best, I would say the best CRO-CMO relationship are the ones I've seen where both leaders have genuine respect for what the other function does. The CRO understands that brand and awareness, it takes time. But the CMO also understands that sales is living in the real world of the customer. They're in the hot seat every single day. And that mutual respect, I believe, is the foundation.
So bringing this home, for the leaders that are watching this right now, we've given them a lot of information, but what does the transformation actually look like over time? Looking back, how did the journey reshape your organizations? And what would you tell leaders today to actually fix this? Corey, what are your words of advice?
You know, looking back, the journey reshaped the organization by shifting from reactionary growth to predictable growth. Where were we headed, and how are we going to get there together? So to me, when I think about it, it is how are those leads generated and how is the pipeline converted to revenue? That created clarity, accountability, and consistency. That's what drives sustainable results. What I would tell leaders today is if your teams aren't aligned on the customer or what qualifies as your real customer avatar and your opportunities and the metrics, hey, you don't have a sales or marketing problem. You have a leadership alignment problem. Get that aligned first. And until that is addressed, the friction just won't go away.
Tracy, final word. What's your message to leaders sitting and listening to today's episode?
My message would be that organizations that come out stronger, they're the ones that stop treating sales and marketing relationships as a problem to be solved and start treating it as a capability to be built. It's not a one-time fix, and it truly is an ongoing investment. What I would tell a leader trying to fix this today is start small. You don't have to redesign your whole go-to-market strategy or way of going to market in one quarter. Pick one shared metric both teams can align on, build one rhythm or process. Maybe it's a weekly 30-minute sync between the groups. But let that trust develop organically, because the real transformation isn't structural, it's cultural. And culture changes one interaction at a time. It is not overnight. The leaders I've seen do this well, they make it personal. They don't just talk about the alignment, they model it. The CMO shows up at the sales kickoff, the CRO sits in on the brand strategy session. When the team sees the leaders showing up for one another, they start doing the same.
Thank you very much, Tracy. So if you're an executive and you're struggling with sales and marketing and you want to figure out how to create that alignment, we have two great professionals right here. Corey, maybe you can tell the audience and the leaders that are watching today a little bit about working with you in the Fractional Executive Network.
Working with the Fractional Executive Network, we help companies align on some of the hardest to see problems that they may miss from the inside. So we step in as experienced operators across revenue, sales, marketing, IT, culture, people, and operations to quickly align teams around shared priorities, clear metrics, and define a path to growth. We're not advisors. We step in and we establish credibility and cadence to drive execution. The result is a faster alignment, better decisions, and more predictable, profitable growth.
Thank you very much, Corey. So Tracy, we just heard what Corey had to say. From your side of the coin, what would we tell leaders?
I would almost repeat exactly what Corey said. Totally agree with you. To build on it, I would say this is why the fractional model is so powerful for companies working on issues like these. You don't always need a full-time CMO or CRO to fix that marketing and sales dynamic. What you need is someone who's been in the seat, who's experienced it, has that outside perspective, can really assess that dynamic quickly, and help build the foundation for alignment. What I bring as a fractional CMO is that pattern recognition across industries and organizations. I've seen what works, what doesn't work. I can help leadership teams get to alignment faster than most would on their own, just from having that experience and that vision. Through the Fractional Executive Network, that expertise is accessible in a way that's right-sized for any business today. And I would say if any of this resonates with your business and the challenges that we've described, those friction points, I'd encourage you to reach out, because absolutely, this is so fixable. It just takes some time, but it's definitely worth fixing.
Absolutely. The only way to truly fix your business is from the outside looking in. And sometimes it's a little bit hard to weather the storm when you're living it. The beautiful thing about the Fractional Executive Network is we have two seasoned professionals sitting with us today who are here to listen with no judgment, but rather just to find out what challenges you are facing, because you're not alone. At the end of this show, we're going to go ahead and provide some links at the bottom of the screen that'll take you to both Tracy and Corey's bios. At the same time, we invite you to visit our YouTube channel to find out a little bit more about what we have to offer at the Fractional Executive Network. Please know that business is not easy, and if it was, everyone would be doing it. But we're fortunate enough to have a group of great executives here to help you and your business not only survive, but thrive. Thank you very much for watching today's podcast. Tracy, Corey, it's been a pleasure not only working side by side with you, but having you on today's show. We look forward to meeting again, and have a great day.
Stories from the table, lessons from